Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, hello. Hello, everybody. What's happening? I'm kind of flying into this one last minute. But it's all good. Here we are. And today we're talking about just a small topic, nothing big, just God. Dun, dun, dun. So, looking for some input here, people. For sure on this one. Looking for some input. Yeah, this is kind of like a spur of the moment thing. This, I knew I was doing a show this morning and I had a lot of clients today. So I just threw a question out there on social media and started getting some input. And then I'm kind of going from a client to right into here. So I haven't had too much time to look at the responses. So I'd love to get some input here. Like, what do you guys think? What's your concept of God? That's what we're discussing tonight. Like I said, nothing big, just the concept of the biggest thing there ever was or ever shall be. So as I'm waiting for some input here, I'll kind of go over some of the stuff that I got on social media. So let's see. God is everywhere. We are all God. Every living thing on and beyond Earth possesses the universal energy of God. I like that definition. So many years ago, after I was living spiritually for, I don't know, maybe a couple of years, I remember thinking I should have a concept of God. I should have something that I believe in, not anything that anybody else believes in, something that I believe in. And, when my beginning of this journey, I had no idea I was going to talk about this. The beginning of my journey, as a lot of you know, was through recovery. So I was getting sober from alcoholism, and I was going through the 12 steps, and going through the 12 steps takes a deep commitment, to say the least. So I was going through that, and you hear things about spiritual awakenings, and you hear things about let go and let God, and you hear things about hey Chris, you hear, let me know what your concept of God is. So you hear things about, you hear things about God, you hear things, about trusting in some higher power. Okay. Of course they use the term higher power in recovery, which is, I think, brilliant because it loosens up the grip on a lot of us, including me, had an idea of God that maybe wasn't favorable. Maybe we didn't identify with, or we didn't understand, or it just didn't resonate, whatever. Maybe we had resentments towards God. I know I did. Like I figured I was going to live a long life because God hated me. I didn't know if there was a God for sure, but I figured if there was one, the one thing that I knew for sure was that he hated me and he wanted me to suffer. So that was my concept of God. And now here I am leaning into this recovery thing, and they're talking about higher power. It can be anything. I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, obviously my concept of God is not good. and it's based around hating me. So like, I don't know how I can trust anything like that. So this was where I was starting from. And at the time, somebody said, well, why don't you use your concept of like the group in AA to be your higher power? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, do you believe that this group of people is staying sober? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, can you stay sober? I said, no. They said, okay, then they're doing something that you can't do. That means that they could be a power greater than you because they're able to accomplish something that you can't. I'm like, okay. So they're like, use the group as your higher power for now. So I was like, okay, I'll try. And I did, and that made sense. And it worked for a while because I was able to put a little bit of faith in something that wasn't me. Which kind of turned out to be the program, I would say, of Alcoholics Anonymous more than maybe the group or the people in it, but they represented the program. So that's kind of where I started. And so later on in my journey, as I started going through the steps, I started having spiritual awakenings. One, I hit this point where I just couldn't take what was going on with my ex-wife and my son. I was in Florida and they were in Rhode Island, and it was just constant bickering and just it was just horrible. And I couldn't take it. And I hung up off of a phone call and I was like, God, I can't take this anymore. I can't, like, if you're there and you're supposed to be able to take over my life and I can hand over my problems to you, then I hand over my problems to you. I can't do this anymore. And when I really said it, I just truly believed in my heart I could not do this anymore. And all of a sudden this calm came over me. And it came right down through my body, starting at my head, and just went down all the way through my feet. And I just sat down on the bed and I just felt this safety, this contentment that everything was going to be okay. And I was like, oh my God, like, this isn't me. Like, something just happened that I've never experienced before. And it was right after I said, if you're there, you take it. I can't do it anymore. You have to take it. And it just happened, like it was taken from me. All this pressure and turmoil was just taken. It was amazing. And I had other things happen to me through these awakenings over several months. So, fast forward to where I started talking about there, a couple of years later, I'm like, I think I should have a kind of wrap my brain around a concept of God. So I thought back on some of the stuff I read and some of the things that I had heard over the years. And I was like, I'm going to make this concept of God what makes sense to me, what resonates with me. I don't care about the religious gods. I don't care about what I learned growing up or what other people said that didn't make sense to me. I'm going to make my own concept of God. So I started thinking, and I remember thinking like this I had looked into some quantum physics. And with quantum physics starts explaining, the breakdown of material, that, the desk and the rock is not solid. It's actually made up of mostly empty space. And the difference between a rock and my skin is that it's actually the same matter. It's just inside the empty space, there's information vibrating at a different rate to determine what it's going to be. And I'm like, wow, okay, so it's mostly empty space, and there's some sort of vibrational rate inside there. There's some sort of divine intelligence that's determining what something is going to become, what it is. And, now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, divine intelligence determining a vibrational rate inside every cell of everything. Now I'm like, okay, now all of a sudden I start flashing back to all these biblical concepts that I had heard from being raised Catholic, and going like, Jesus saying, split wood and I am there, lift up a rock and you will find me. I'm like, oh, like, okay, so now if he's in every cell, if he's divine intelligence, if he's the intelligence of the universe, if he's just consciousness, intelligent consciousness within every cell determining what it is, then that explains some of the things that I had been taught in religion that I didn't understand. Like, lift up a rock and I'm going to find God. Like, what are you talking about? Split wood and you'll find me? I split a bunch of wood. I never found God. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, he's in everything. Well, then that would explain how he's omnipresent. If he's in everything and he's in the vibrational rays, it's intelligence itself, then he would be in everything and he would be omnipresent and therefore omnipowerful. Now all of a sudden this stuff starts making sense to me and it starts resonating. I'm like, okay. And I start thinking about what I heard about energy. I heard this thing that if you ask a man of religion what God is, he will say, God is the Alpha and the Omega, always has been, always will be, can never die, can only transmute into different forms. Everything is made of energy. Well, everything, God is in everything. I'm like, oh, yeah. And if you ask a man of science what energy is, well, energy can never die. Always has been, always will be, only transmutes into different forms. Everything is made up of energy. Oh, okay. So now I'm going, I misspoke there a little bit, but I'm sure you guys can follow it. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing how when a man of religion starts describing God and a man of science starts describing energy, they have a lot of similar aspects. I'm like, okay, maybe God is energy. Oh, yeah, I like that. Okay. So God is vibrational intelligence, divine intelligence that's within everything, which everything is made up of energy. And it's like now all of a sudden I start understanding the different concepts of these things that start resonating with me, and they don't sound like some story made up to try to control me, because that's what a lot of religion felt like to me. It felt like, I know that the Catholic religion, now I know this, I didn't know this before. I know that the Catholic religion has done a lot of good. I know I had major resentments to the Catholic religion, so I needed to work through this stuff, because otherwise it was going to block my spirituality, and I wasn't willing to have that. So if there's a resentment, I needed to work through it, and that highly included the Catholic Church. Being raised in Boston around the time with all the altar boy issues were going on and Father Porter and all that stuff. Like, I had some serious issues with the Catholic religion. So I needed to work through those. And once I started, just looking at it and seeing the good that it's done, and the good aspects, that was helpful, but I didn't resonate with the way it was taught, because to me it was always taught, and not all Catholic churches or not all Catholic priests are teach in this way. But when I grew up, it was all fire and brimstone in my church, and it was fear, and you got to fear God, and God, if you sin, God's going to get you, and all this stuff. And I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, oh, like, by the time I was in third grade, I was sent to the office more times than 3/4 of the kids in the school. So I was like, I was a sinner already. So, and I didn't see any hope of not being one. So I was screwed as far as, God was concerned, with the old belief system of God. So I never felt love or safety or anything like that. So it just didn't make sense to me. So I decided to come up with a concept that made sense to me and that felt good. And then all of a sudden, it's amazing how I started understanding things different, and taking different things that was said and seeing how they made sense. So, hey, Lisa. So, yeah, share your concept of God, Lisa. So, Chris put, my concept of God has changed a bit. I feel that everything is alive, and therefore everything has energy. God is energy. So, God is in everything. Right. Very similar to what I was talking about. And what I found is that there's not that many people, and of course it gets dramatically less, I think, with the generation you're in, because I feel we're in a huge spiritual shift, and the old way of doing things and thinking just doesn't work anymore. And there was many generations for tens of thousands of years that basically I oversimplify and say, like, they did things because I said so, or because that's the way it is. That's just how people lived for tens of thousands of years. Like, think of the caste system. Think, if your father was a carpenter, you were a carpenter. Like, social classes, you didn't hop social classes, or if you did, it was very rare. So, like, nobody questioned everything or anything. They just did what was necessary in their lifestyle. This spiritual awakening is being birthed on this earth as people questioning things, people breaking down structures that has ruled the earth for tens of thousands of years. So like the hippies were the first ones to come in, in the 60s, and question everything. They questioned everything. Nobody did that before. Nobody questioned corporate America. Nobody questioned the church. Nobody questioned, like, the government. Nobody questioned that stuff ever. Not in a mass group of people that was literally worldwide, not just in the United States, that questioned everything, and it shook the world to its core. Like, I've talked with some hippies from that day, and it's funny because some of them feel like they failed, like they were here to change the world and to bring in this new peace, love way of living, and they failed. And I'm like, oh my God, no, you guys didn't fail. Like, you were here to shake everything up. It was the beginning. Just like, you can't change the way the world has functioned for tens of thousands of years in one generation. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to shift this. This is, so, like, they questioned everything, and the world has never been the same since. And now we have more of a fertile place for this new way of, well, we call it a new way of thinking, to come in. And all it is it's actually based on ancient wisdom. If you want to learn how community works, go study communities of ancient cultures that were actually effective, and some that are still around. It's not complicated. You just respect one another as a foundation. You understand that basically you have to, at the end of the day, function as one. Like, those types of things, there's ancient cultures that haven't been killed off yet that still function like that. And if like I've looked into this, and if when you start seeing these people talk, they're like, oh well, yes, this is just how it is. Like, do you like being part of a community? Like, it's where my happiness comes from. Like, of course. We don't have communities like that. We don't even trust our neighbors anymore, So, but this is what's coming in. It's a new way of being. So, like, you have to understand that the generations are, it's not perfect. It's not one generation thinks this way and another generation thinks that way. But like, generations are going to have tendencies to them. So the older the people are, the less they've been exposed, and then less this is bubbling up within them to create a new way of being. So if you take somebody that's 80 years old and you take somebody, or I shouldn't say that, not somebody, if you take 1 million people that are 80 years old and you take 1 million people that are 8 years old, you're going to see a gigantic variance, because they're different generations with a couple of them in between. And this is, we're creating a new way of being. So, a lot of people that are older, they're still trying to, some of them are still either believing in the old fire and brimstone God, or maybe starting to break out of it. Most teenagers like fire and brimstone God. Like, what are you talking about? It's not all based in like fear and control. That doesn't resonate with kids. They don't understand what the hell you're talking about. So it's changing. It's changing. It's in the process of changing, because that old manipulation control doesn't work. It's not like it. I think personally, I think the Bible is one of the most spiritual books that we have on the planet. I think it's filled with tons of beautiful truth. And I think it's filled with a bunch of bullshit too. And it's not like you historically can go and see that rulers had literally taken things out of the Bible and changed things to try to control people. It's just historical fact that they've done that. So of course the mentality was to try to control people. And of course that's bled into some of the teachings. But if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, you can see love, 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 love all over the place, especially like with those red letter Bibles. Everything that Jesus said is written in red. Love, 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 love. Oh, this isn't in red. Sacrifice a lamb, locusts, kill a bunch of people. Like there's a dramatic shift in the way things are portrayed. And, so I just look at the love parts and I don't look at the other stuff, or I look at the other stuff and I start trying to go like, what are they saying in there? When my son moved in with me, I needed to take him to Catholic church. His mom was raising him Catholic and I needed to support that. So I needed to take him to church every week. So I'm like, okay, I need to do this. I'm here. There must be a purpose. So now I have an opportunity to having lived spiritually for several years, I can sit in a Catholic church and listen to this stuff and try to see the spirituality in it. And 90% of the time, I could understand the message that they were saying from a spiritual perspective. And it was a loving, helpful message. And probably 75% of the time, the priest was actually on board and he was delivering the right message. About 25% of the time, the priest didn't even understand what he was talking about. He was misinterpreting the lesson that was in the Bible, and he wasn't even it wasn't even he was just preaching some dogma that somebody had passed down and told him to talk about or something. Either that or he just misinterpreted it. We're people. It happens. We have thinking brains for a reason. So if your priest or anybody else is saying stuff that doesn't resonate, with you, then I recommend you don't take that on as part of you, because it's not your truth. If you have your feet on the ground, of course. But yeah, I've never respected anybody because of a title. I don't. And I never have believed anything that anybody has ever said to me just because they said it, ever. And I don't plan on starting now. So, like, this is why I like some of the Buddhist philosophy and actually some of the Hindu philosophy as well. Like, what I hear in those sectors is try it and see if it works. Just try it, and I like that. It's like, yes, okay, I'll try it. Oh, it worked. Good. I'll keep this. It's not for me. Okay, I won't. Cool. I mean, really, what's the point? If it doesn't work, what's the point? How are you truly going to believe in something that doesn't work? Right? Anyway, so I'm going to look at some of these comments. Lisa, God, source, universe is everything and only love. And this is another thing that I believe, that God is love. So, this is something that I kind of wanted to throw out there, because I've thrown it out there before, but I think it fits into this conversation. To me, it doesn't matter, because I only believe in what works. To me, it doesn't matter truly what somebody's concept of God is. I have clients that are completely Christian, completely Catholic, and all other different religions. A lot of them don't identify with a particular religion, but it doesn't matter to me. I have clients that don't believe in God at all, which it doesn't matter to me because it does. What I deal with is spiritual law. The way that I understand spiritual law, or you can call it universal law if it makes you feel better, is dynamics, how things work. If you do this, you get that. That's how I understand things. It's very logical. So to me, it doesn't matter. Like, if something only works if you believe in God, then it's not universal law. It's not spiritual law, because universal law works in the universe. That's what makes it universal law. And it works every time, all the time, in every situation, regardless of the external circumstances. That's what I believe in. That's what I teach. So whether you believe that God created this law, or it's just the universal way of things working, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. Like, and I kind of took this one step further a little while ago. What if there is no such thing as God, and there is no such thing as love? What if the only thing there is a universe? There's just a universe, and it's a inanimate universe, and all it does is it just wants to expand. That's it. It's impersonal. It has no emotions. It has no love. It has no real even thinking. It just has laws that it functions by. That's it. Completely impersonal, right? What if that's the case? We are part of that universe. So if this universe wants to constantly expand, we need to constantly expand, because we are part of the universe. The universe isn't a thing. It's made up of things. It's made up of planets, and it's made up of people. So if its laws are created that I just expand and take up more space, that is my energetic law of existence, which basically has been proven. The universe is constantly expanding, right? So if it's just an impersonal thing, then what is this? Why do we feel good, or why do we feel bad, or why do we feel love, or why do we feel anger? Like, there has to be, if something is as intelligent as the universe, that can create the entire universe and all this intelligent life on it, and probably not just our world and other worlds, but whatever. So, like, if it can create everything that it created, it must be intelligent. And if it's intelligent and it wants to expand, it's going to create a system to expand. So what if love isn't even a thing. It's just the universe's way of giving its inanimate objects, known as people, feedback for when it does something that expands it. So therefore, the universe expands. And the negative emotions are just feedback from an impersonal universe that tells you not to do that because it's not expansive. And that's all the universe wants. It just wants to expand. What if that were true? It's fine. It's fine. The way I teach, that's fine if that's what you believe. Because now you take that. So what you, because what is the core of that? There's a system, right? There's a system. That's the core of what I just said. There's a system. And the system says you're going to feel pleasurable stuff if you do stuff that expands you. And if you do pleasurable stuff, the reason it feels pleasurable is because either a loving God or an impersonal universe wants you to keep doing it. So if you would like to continue feeling pleasurable things, you should continue doing the things that give you pleasure. Now, and the opposite is true. If you would like to experience less suffering, then you should do less things that make you suffer. Doesn't matter if it's an impersonal universe or a loving God that loves you and wants the best thing for you. The laws are the same. The way it works is the same. So this is why it doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. It just matters if you understand the system. And if there is a God, which I personally believe there is, but if there is a God, do you think that something that is that loving, omnipresent, omnipowerful, all energy, just loves us unconditionally in ways that we can't even fathom, do you think that God needs my approval to feel good about itself? Do you think it has such a shallow ego that it's going to go, well, Glenn's doing all the right things and he's living the right way and he's moving in love and he's moving towards love and he's bringing love into this world, but he's not patting me on the back and I like a kiss ass, so screw him. Does that sound like a loving, omnipresent, omnipowerful, unconditional loving God to you? Of course not. He doesn't need my praise. He doesn't need me to kiss his ass to feel good about himself or herself or itself. He doesn't need me to pat him on the back. Now, I happen to enjoy feeling an intimate connection with what I believe is a loving God. And I enjoy feeling gratitude for the love that I feel in my life and all the blessings that have occurred to my life. And I enjoy sending that gratitude up to this omnipresent being that sends me all these wonderful good feelings and makes me feel like I'm safe and I'm loved and I'm cared for. I love that, but that's just me. You don't have to do that. Doesn't matter. Just do what works, man. Just do what works in your life. That's what's important. This is my point. It doesn't matter what your belief is. And we think we're so, try not to swear. We think we're so freaking powerful, man. Like, what gives it this audacity that we have, that like, that we're that important? Like that we need to, that we need to understand God, and like we don't need to understand God. So like that. This is interesting. It kind of went full circle and brings me back to what I was talking about when I first started. When I started thinking of my concept of God, like I told you, I was like, oh, you know what? God is energy. That kind of resonates. And God is in divine intelligence that's within every cell. That kind of resonates. Oh, okay. And I think I even came up with one or two other pieces back then. And I was sitting there going, So what else? Like, oh, I like those pieces. What other piece do I think I should bring into this beautiful puzzle called God that I'm building of my own concept of? And I had come up with a few things and then nothing came to me for a moment and I went, I don't think I want to finish this puzzle. I think that if there is this divine consciousness that is just everywhere, I think that my little human mind, or the small percentage thereof that I actually use, is incapable of probably grasping something that large. So I think what I would like to do is I would like to keep my understanding of what I think God is incomplete. And I think it's nice because then it has room to breathe. And as I learn different things along my walk, maybe I'll take that piece and be like, oh, I believe that to be part of God. Oh, I believe this to be part of God. And then maybe I might find something else out and go, you know what? That piece in the back that I started with, I learned other stuff and I don't really think that's true anymore. I think I'll remove that piece. So I have an evolving consciousness of what I think God is. And that feels good. You know, that feels pleasant to me. That feels like it's right, as it should be. And that's what I believe in. Why? Because it feels right. Not because I think I'm right. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe God is sitting up there on a throne going, Glenn, you stupid little meathead. Like, maybe, maybe not. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel that, somebody said this many years ago to me many years ago. If I can't picture a loving God saying it, then it must not be true. And I still remember that, and I still use that because that's like I said, it doesn't, to me, it fits the same whether you believe in a universal consciousness that is just focused on its own expansion or a loving God. It doesn't change the rules of the game. So I don't care. I like believing in a loving God. And when I take a step back and I start looking at the things that are unfolding in my life, in the life of other people around, and I look at it through the lens of a loving God and that things are happening for me, not to me, then all of a sudden things start to make sense. When I think of there not being a loving God and life just happening to me, I'm like, what a dick creator would create a world like this. Oh my God. And I just can't fathom something that's super intelligent creating a world where there's just like we treat human beings like ants in a magnifying glass, just chasing them, trying to burn them and make them suffer and die. Like, I just can't see, like, it just doesn't sound right, man. And that's how I do things. It doesn't sound right. It just doesn't make sense. Like, when they say we are made in the image and likeness of God, I've heard it said that, we made God in the image and likeness of man, which I think is true in a lot of ways. And this is why we have problems. We gave God an ego. We have egos. God doesn't have an ego. That's why he doesn't give a crap if I praise him or not. Like, he doesn't have an ego. He doesn't need my approval. We gave God that, so that in that way, the stuff that I don't understand and that doesn't resonate and make sense to me, that to me is us making God in our image with all the shortcomings. But like, if I look at things and I go, well, what is innate in all people? Like, all people love their children. You don't need to learn how to love your children. You just do. So I think that's how God is. God is a creator. We are creators. God, we love our children just innately. God must love us. Just makes sense. Why would somebody that hates its creation make a creation that loves its creation? Do you see what I mean? It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Like, I'm this omni-powerful, omni-intelligence thing, and I'm going to create a world, and I'm going to put people there. And these people are going to just innately love their children, even though I want to watch them suffer. Huh? Why? Then if he wants to watch us suffer, why wouldn't he just innately teach us to make our kids suffer and enjoy watching them suffer? Because then he would be able to watch us suffer, watching our children suffer, and there'd be more suffering, and God would be happier. Do you see how I just use logic? It just doesn't make sense. So if we innately love our children, then our creator probably innately loves us. It just makes sense. So this is how I'm made in the image and likeness of God. Yeah, because God is love and I am naturally love. So therefore I am like God. This is how I make sense of things. It's just logic. If it doesn't make sense, then I don't believe it. If it doesn't, and sitting here thinking that just, God is here to make us suffer, there's no rhyme or reason to anything. Like nobody really has a shot at happiness. Like again, you can go back to to there being a system. And whether you believe that there's a God or just an impersonal universe, the system is set up by what makes us feel good and what doesn't make us feel good. So follow what makes you feel good, and you're going to be then you'll be in alignment with universal law. And I'm talking about really feel good. I'm not talking about, blowing a line of cocaine and going, woo, I feel wonderful. I think I'll do that again. Come on, use your head. I'm talking about life stuff here. You don't have to, you don't have to try throwing silly arguments. Not that anybody's doing that. Nobody is doing that. I just, every once in a while I hear that voice of egoic BS that some people try to throw at me. It's like, come on, have an intelligent conversation. Don't throw something at me that I can flick away in a moment. So yes, this is why I believe in a loving God. This is why it makes sense to me. And one of the biggest, I think perhaps the biggest question is, why is there so much suffering in the world? And my answer to that is because, this is when I start talking about fear and love. Like if you boil down to the bottom of everything, you get down to fear and love. So love is the basis for everything pleasurable or good. Fear is the basis for everything negative. Like when you get underneath anger, that's fear. When you get underneath sadness, fear. So we've got love and fear. So, my belief is you simplify, you get closer to the truth. So if if there's light and darkness symbolizing love and fear, and there, I put my hands over my leg and just block out the light, then is darkness a thing? Does it have its own energy? Well, if I just open up my hands, now it's light. The darkness didn't fight the light. It wasn't a battle to see who was going to win. It's just light now. So to me, darkness is absence of light, and love and fear are the same. Like fear is just absence of love. Love is an energy, the foundational energy of the universe. And it's what makes everything thrive and expand. And if there's absence of love, then that's fear. That's what fear, that's when fear arises. So to me, all the stuff that goes on that's negative in the world, and I mean specifically negative, not something we perceive as negative, because sometimes we can perceive a volcano going off as negative because some people died. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I mean, there's this Earth ecosystem that's going on, and it's not every natural disaster is means something's wrong. So the perceived evils that happen on this Earth, which are basically man-made, are absence of love, which is fear. So you have fear manifesting. Where there's no love, that's where. So this is fear manifesting in this world. Why doesn't God come down and fix it all? That's the big question, right? Because he can't. Because the law is free will. That's law. There is no, the only thing, I believe we create our own reality. And like me being an alcoholic for 20 years, I think that's a good example. I don't think me being an alcoholic benefited the world. So this is how I use this for an example. So if me being an alcoholic doesn't benefit the world, and me waking up spiritually does benefit the world, because then I can teach, then why didn't God come down and tap me on the forehead and just wake me up? Because he can't. Because that is control. That is not love. And God is based in love. Love is the law. So the moment God comes down and says, oh, look at these people, they're not allowing my love to flow through them and to live in a way that is best for them. They're doing stupid stuff that goes against love and is all coming out of fear, and they're doing a bunch of stupid stuff, and they're making a mess down there. I should go down and fix it. He can't come down and fix it, because as soon as he grabs little Glenn and says, Glenn would be better not as an alcoholic, Glenn would be better as a spiritual teacher. As soon as he does that, now all of a sudden the entire world would implode, because he just broke the original law that everything is based in love. And that's not love. That is manipulation, and that is control, even if your intentions are good. This is the meaning of the statement, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You can have all the good intentions in the world. Oh, I'm going to help. I'm going to help. I'm going to help. As soon as that turns into manipulation, it is not love. Even if your intentions are good, it is not love. It's manipulation. It's control. That is fear-based, and it's negative energy. So therefore, God can't do it. So this is why we have free will. God cannot break the law of having a relationship with its creations based out of love by controlling us, even if it's for our own good. He can't do it. It breaks the foundational law that everything is based on. So there. This is one of those times where I loved having Ben. I love doing the show with Ben, because sometimes I'm on a roll like that, and I'm speaking, and then all of a sudden I just finish the point and just everything shuts off and I got nothing. And Ben would pick up the slack and ask me a question or expand on it or something. But whatever, that's how it works. So let's look at some of these comments. And let me know what you guys think about all that. Or if you have questions, fire some questions at me, man. Let's see. I'm scrolling too fast. I got to find a different way to scroll. Here we go. I think people are looking to spirituality as the new true religion. Carl. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think we're finding that, to me, religion and spirituality do not have to be pitted against each other. I believe that if religion is used properly, it's a beautiful gateway or pathway to connect to your spirituality. And I believe your spirituality is your individual connection with whatever you think your source is. So like many people enjoy using religion because, like, I've given this example before. Like, if you're sitting there, right? Like, let's say you're Jesus, or maybe Jesus didn't even teach this, with all the dogma coming after Jesus died so many years later. Whoever, like, you're a spiritual teacher, right? In Christianity, and you are actually enlightened, you are awakened, you are in connection with God, and you understand this stuff. And all these people can sense that, and they're coming to you and they're going like, dude, man, like you're connected with God. Like, how can I connect to God? And they go, you feel God in your heart. And they're like, I don't know how to do that. Well, you just go within, and like, if you go deep enough within, like that you feel this presence, and it's loving and it's beautiful. Yeah, I tried that. I can't do that. What do I do? All right. Well, let's see. You have to not think that you are the center of the universe. So, like, you have to humble yourself. Oh, okay. How do I do that? Well, get on your knees. That's a humbling position. Okay. All right. So he gets on his knees, and it's like, okay, well, you gotta, like, think that there's something everywhere. Okay. So, like, can I, like, lift your head up? All right. Now you got to block out all the sensory stuff from the earth, like everything you look at and stuff. You got to block all that sensory stuff out. So close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay. So, and you feel the presence in your heart. So put your hands in front of your heart. Okay. And then just really go within and feel like you're talking to a good friend. Okay. Okay. Oh, I feel something. I feel something. I did it. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Hey, that's how you pray. That's probably how praying was developed. People like direction. It helps to have direction. It helps being taught to do things in a way. Many people learn very well like that. We've learned very well, but we've been taught in a linear way, in a linear reality, in a transitional world. That's how we're used to learning. So to teach people how to connect to God in a linear way like that, with actual things that they can do, people learn well that way. So religion is really good that way. I mean, now we're having a big spiritual awakening, and a lot of people are connected. They don't like all the dogma that came with these religions. Jesus wasn't Christian. Like, so they don't like all that stuff. They just want to go straight in with the relationship. They don't want to ring a bell and stand up and then genuflect and then kneel and then stand up again. They're like, it's just not resonating with a lot of people. And the people that it resonates with, that's cool. Like, you can use it to like I explained, praying. If you use that to connect to the loving presence within you, then that's beautiful. Then you're using it properly, and you should continue to do so. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't need all that dogma. So they're not bringing that dogma into their spiritual practices, and they don't need it. So, like, if religion's dogma and structure works for you, then you should continue doing that. Because the whole point is connection with God. God doesn't care if you're in a church, or if you're in nature, or if you genuflect, or if you don't. He doesn't care, I promise. That's not a loving God. That's a manipulative, controlling egomaniac, which ain't God. So, but if it helps you, then do it. This is the point. Do what brings up the love within you. Do what feels right. Open to God, however you need to. So, and then do you see that wall go, boom, you're done speaking, Glenn? Just going to scroll through some of these. See if I go off on another tangent. Yeah, the control never set well with me as a kid. Just the universe working for me, not against me. I'm making you laugh, Lisa. Hey, Sandra. Undefinable. Yeah, I agree. I don't think God is definable. Yes, Grace. I still speak about you, Grace. We had such an amazing time in the beginning of our journeys. It was so cool when I moved to Rhode Island. Rough 24 hours, fear based. Yeah, it's just absence of love, man. Bring love in, and it's amazing what happens. Open your mind and your heart and use common sense. Nicely said, Carl. Janice, great to hear you. You helped me see things in a way I never had. My pleasure. This is, that's what it's all about, is just going, wow, I never thought of it that way. And it resonating, so this is what I try to teach my clients and other people. It's like, pay attention to when you're listening to this podcast or when you're reading something spiritual. When something connects to you, when something moves you, pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to where you feel it. Because if you pay attention, you're going to feel it's more of a body sensation, oftentimes in the heart, but not always. But what it isn't is it isn't in your head, even when you intellectually understand what's being said. This is why when you're in school and a teacher goes like, okay, does everybody get that? You're like, yeah, I understand it. I understand it. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. That's because it's all intellectual. That's what basically school is. These things that we learn in an earthly dimension, it's all intellectual. This stuff is our natural way of being. It's the foundational energy and a foundational way that the universe and the earth has always worked, and it always will work. It's just we've been out of touch with it. That doesn't mean that it's not spiritual or universal law. It is. So therefore, it is within us. So when I'm saying something or somebody else is saying something that really clicks with you, pay attention. It's more of a body sensation. That's because it's within you already. And all I'm doing is reminding you of something. That's it. I'm not teaching it. I'm actually reminding you of it. And what you're doing is you're not learning it. You're not learning it up here in your head intellectually. You're aligning with it. You're remembering it and it's clicking. And it's going, whoa, like there's something inside of me that is resonating with this. There's something inside of me that knows this to be true. There's something inside of me that this makes sense with on a deeper level than just the intellectual understanding. That is your stuff. That is the stuff that you hang on to. And sometimes I'm teaching stuff or I was learning stuff and I'm listening to another teacher or reading a book or something and I'm like, nah, I don't think so, man. I don't think so. And what I learned to do is just dismiss that. Don't worry about it. Keep reading. Connect with the stuff that connects with you. Because if something doesn't connect with you, that means it's either not your truth and you need to find a different version that is, or it's not your truth at this time. It's not important for you to get that at this time. So just let it go. I don't want you implementing things that don't resonate with you. If it resonates with you, trust that though. Latch on to the stuff that resonates. Latch on to it tight, man. Make it part of you. Make it part of your life. Don't sit there and be like, oh, Glenn said some cool stuff last night. What was it? I don't really remember, but it sounded pretty good. I felt good for about an hour while he was talking. No, man, implement this stuff. I spoke with a client today that I worked with for like 6 months, and man, she was ready. And she had a background in some spirituality, and the stuff that I was saying just resonated, and boom, 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 boom. And then she took a little gap of time and she implemented this stuff, really implemented it. And I say this all the time, but this is a good example. I spoke with her today. She really implemented this stuff, and her life has changed dramatically in every way. Why? Because of what I taught her? No, because she implemented it. That's why. Feeling good listening to somebody talk isn't enough. Implement this stuff and change your life, because that's what it does. And I would not talk about it. I mean, I'm seeing Janice and hey, Jenny, I'm seeing you guys. Thank you for your support. You guys knew me. Like, do you think that, does anybody think that I am money motivated? That I'm speaking this stuff, that I've been doing a podcast for 8 years because I want to suck the money out of your wallet, that I don't give a crap about people? Come on. You guys can tell. So, like, why am I so passionate about this? It's because I struggled and suffered for 35 years. That's why. And I found this, and this is the real deal. This is the stuff that changes your life. And I changed my life. I've lived it. I went from an alcoholic, homeless loser to a very good father in person. And I've been consistent with that for almost 19 years now. So, like, this isn't, I'm not spouting crap. This stuff actually works, but you have to implement it. So implement it. Take this stuff, and if it resonates, believe that, because that's you believing in yourself. That's you believing with what resonates with you. And secondarily, it'll make sense logically in your head too. I mean, it's not exclusive to here, but it doesn't make any sense up here. Absolutely not. It's just that that's secondary. This is more important. Believe this, and then you can back it up with this. We have a brain for a reason. So this is your biggest asset. When you feel something and it resonates with you, that is your truth. Don't second guess it. Don't dismiss it. Hang on to it. Hold it dear. Implement it wherever you can. Make it part of your life. And I guarantee you will see your life change for the better. I guarantee it. And if you don't, give me a call, shoot me an email, and we will figure it out, because something's off, because this stuff works. Oh, well, this was a fun one, man. I had a blast with this one. Thank you guys for tuning in and participating. I love seeing all the comments, even if I didn't shout every one of them out. Yeah, so this was fun. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. Hey, buddy, thank you. I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think just implement this stuff. That should be my new ending. Implement. I am going to say something real briefly. I always talk about the stages we're in, and right now what I'm really getting is that it's time, man. It's time for joy. We have to implement, work on ourselves and all this stuff. And we've been doing so much work for especially the last 2 years, 3 years, 6 years or so, especially there. Life has been increasingly difficult, and the work that we need to do is like really intense. Excuse me. It's not easy and all this stuff. And we keep thinking that like once we do the work, then it's joy. And that's true. We do experience joy and peace and love. I've experienced a lot of it over the last few years. But it just keeps seeming like there's more work and there's more work and there's more work. And there is. And this, I feel a shift happening now. Like we're going to be going into a place that's more fruit of the work that we've been doing. We're going to be walking around happier, more hopeful, more joyful in our day-to-day lives, as long as we're living in alignment with universal law. That's all it is. We're either in alignment with universal law or we're out of alignment. And if we're out of alignment, we've experienced suffering. Why? Because it's trying to push us to be into alignment. That's why. So as soon as we're in alignment, the suffering stops and we start experiencing more joy. Why? Because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're in alignment with nature. That's it. We're just in alignment with nature. If you notice what causes suffering, it's when you're out of alignment with nature. When you're hurting other people, when you're hurting the earth, like you don't experience this presence of joy and love and peace. Why? Because you're not in alignment with nature. It's just nature. So we're going to be experiencing, those of you who are really implementing this, you're going to be experiencing an existence filled with more day-to-day, joyful, loving, just happiness, and your life is going to get better, and you're going to like it. I mean, this is how it works, man. And so the fruition to all of our spiritual work that we've been doing over the years collectively is starting to come into fruition now. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. All right, people, I'm going to fly. So yeah, shoot me an email, say hi, whatever. It's all good. Talk to you later. Peace.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons in Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.